All right. 25. A speech, then, is to be made becoming in its kind with a sort of complexion and substance of its own, for that it be weighty, agreeable, savoring of erudition and liberal knowledge, worthy of admiration, polished, having feeling and passion in it as far as is required, or qualities not confined to particular members, but are apparent in the whole body. But that it be, as it were, strewed with flowers of language and thought is a property which ought not to be equally diffused throughout the whole speech, but at such intervals that, as in the arrangement of ornaments, there may be certain remarkable or luminous objects disposed here and there. Such a kind of eloquence, therefore, is to be chosen as is most adapted to interest the audience, such as may not only delight, but delight without satiety. For I do not imagine it to be expected of me that I should admonish you to be aware that your language be not poor or rude or vulgar or obsolete. Both your age and your geniuses encourage me to something of a higher nature, for it is difficult to tell what the cause is why from those objects which most strongly strike our senses with pleasure and occasion the most violent emotions at their first appearance, we should soonest turn away with a certain loathing and satiate. It's not satiety. There's a titty in there somewhere. How much more florid in the great gaiety and variety of the coloring are most objects in modern pictures than in ancient ones, which, however, though they captivate us at first sight, do not afford any lasting pleasure, whereas we are strongly attracted by rough and faded coloring in the paintings of antiquity. How much softer and more delicate are fanciful modulations and notes in music than those which are strict and grave, and yet if the former are often repeated, not only persons of an austere character, but even the multitude raise an outcry against them. We may perceive, too, in regard to the other senses, that we take a less permanent delight in perfumes composed of the sweetest and most powerful odors than in those of a more moderate scent. That is more commended, which appears to smell like wax, than that which is as strong as saffron, and that in the sense of feeling itself there is a limit required both to softness and smoothness. How soon does even the taste, which of all our senses is the most desirous of gratification and is delighted with sweetness beyond the others, nauseate and reject that which is too luscious? Who can take sweet drinks and meats long together, while in both kinds of nutriment, such things as affect the sense with but a slight pleasure are the farthest removed from the satiating quality. And so, in all other things, loathing still borders upon the most exquisite delights, and therefore we should the less wonder at this effect in language, in which we may form a judgment either from the poets or the orators that a style elegant, ornate, embellished, and sparkling, without intermission, without restraint, without variety, whether it be prose or poetry, through painted with the brightest colors, cannot possibly give lasting pleasure. And we the sooner take offense at the false locks and paint of the orator or poet for this cause, that the senses, when affected with too much pleasure, are satiated not from reason, but constitutionally. But constitutionally, in writings and in speeches, these disguised blemishes are even more readily noticed, not only from the judgment of the ear, but from that of the understanding. 26. Though such expressions of applause, therefore, are very well, excellent, may be often repeated to me, I would not have beautifully, pleasantly come to often, yet I would have the exclamation, nothing can be better, very frequent. But this high excellence and merit in speaking should be attended with some portions of shade and obscurity, that the part of which a stronger light is thrown may seem to stand out and become more prominent. Roscius never delivers this passage with all the spirit that he can. The wise man seeks for honor, not for spoil, as the reward of virtue, but rather in an abject manner, that into the next speech, what do I see? The steel girt soldier holds the sacred seats. He may throw his whole powers and may gaze, may express wonder and astonishment. How does the other great actor utter? What aid shall I solicit? How gently, how sedately, how calmly, for he proceeds with, O Father, O my country, house of Priam. In, no, you gotta give me a second because this is like, I can't show you. For he proceeds, why is that? I hate that. I'm not restarting it. I don't know if that's whatever. For he proceeds in which so much action could not be exerted if it had been consumed and exhausted by any preceding emotion. Nor did the actors discover this before their poets themselves, or indeed before even those who composed the music, by both of whom their tone is sometimes lowered, sometimes heightened, sometimes made slender, sometimes full, with variation and distinction. Let our orator then be thus graceful and delightful, nor can he indeed be so otherwise. Let him have a severe and solid grace, not a luscious and delicious sweetness. For the precepts relative to the ornament of eloquence which are commonly given are of such a nature that even the worst speaker can observe them. It is first of all necessary, therefore, as I said before, that a stock of matter and thoughts be got together, a point on which Antonius has already spoken. These are to be interwoven into the very thread and essence of the oration, embellished by words and diversified by allusions. But the greatest glory of eloquence is to exaggerate a subject by embellishment, which has effect not only in amplifying and extolling anything in a speech to an extraordinary degree, but also in extenuating it and making it appear contemptible.